Hello, and welcome to another episode of the M42 Adventures podcast. I am your host, Rick Trimmer. And again, this is our Ask Me Anything series, we'll call it. We're going to do these first of the month every month. And I think it's a good way for people to ask their questions and get to know me better, get to know what we're doing here better, whatever their questions are. And I enjoy it. It's one that's fun for me. And so that's what this episode is. So ask me anything. I think this is the fourth or fifth one. And we're going to run through. We got questions here from different people, emailed, text, told to me in person. And I'm going to run through and just answer them to the best of my ability. And so we're going to get started. Let's just jump into this. All right. So we've got 4, 8, 12, 13 questions here today. Should be plenty. I'm kind of long-winded on a lot of these. I'll try to be more concise and get through these. So let's just jump into these. So first one, let's see. As a leader and entrepreneur, what's one habit or practice that's been essential to your success? Again, I have not read any of these. Ricky types them up, gets them from everybody, and then puts them in front of me moments before the before we record. So I have not read any of these. I do not know what they're going to be about, and I like that. I think that's better, so it's not planned out. It's genuine. So bear with me if it takes me a minute to actually process it. But as a leader and entrepreneur, what's one habit or practice that's been essential to your success? And that's an easy one. That's a very easy one for me. The biggest thing that I think sets apart people from success or failure is persistence. And it wasn't something that I had. It wasn't something that I was just persistent. Up until my 25th birthday, I couldn't keep a steady job. I just was, ask my parents, I was so inconsistent, got fired from my dad's company 5 or 6 times. And so not something that I was born with or anything like that. The way it actually came about was I started one business and it was going very well. And then I stumbled across another one that I thought was going to be bigger and better. It was United Wood Products. And I just saw more opportunity there and for growth. And so I sold my other business and I was 20. I started the one at 25, started United Wood at 26. So just 1 year later. And the other one, I'd gotten up to about 10 employees. It was going well. I could have done that. And I probably could have scaled that to an extent, but I just thought that United Wood had more potential. And so jumped over to that one, sold the other one, jumped over to that one. And then we went hard with that one. We went big. I got loans to didn't have money for the startup and we wanted to go fast. And so we got some large loans and the economy was good in 06. We were rocking and rolling. And then 08 hit and it was just annihilated us. My sales went from like 3 or 4 million a year to 200,000 a year. You do the math on that. That is a substantial drop. And it was devastating. And so when I got the loans, a couple of them were personal loans and things like that, but there was 2 loans that I got that my dad had guaranteed with his farm. And so my dad put up the money or put up his name. We got the loan and then we paid him a commission or whatever, not a commission, what's the word? A interest rate for those loans. And so he was making money and that's why he did it. It was guaranteed through inventory with our company. And, but when, things went south, we had all this inventory, couldn't move it. Yeah, it's worth something, but it's not really if you can't sell it. The banks came to collect. We didn't have money for the payments and it got really, really scary. And I lost my house. I lost my cars. Everybody knows the stories. If you don't, go back and listen to my earlier episodes, but we lost everything and had about $600,000 in debt. At the $640,000 in debt at the end when the dust settled. And, it would have been better for me, personally to declare bankruptcy and just start over, right? That's what a lot of people do. And there's 2 things with that. One, my dad had declared bankruptcy when he was younger, my stepdad. And when he made his money back a decade later, he actually went back to the people that he had, declared bankruptcy on and quote unquote screwed and paid them back. And so I was raised to where you just, don't declare bankruptcy. You don't try to do that. It's not something you don't just bail. So that was one thing. But I was in such a deep hole, and it was just insurmountable to me. I just saw no way out of it. Literally, I saw no way out of it, at least for a decade. I just thought this is a shackle that is going to follow me for years and years and years. Um, but I couldn't bail on it. It's my dad's farm. It's his pride and joy that he worked his whole life for, and there was no way to quit. And so it forced me to be to have that grit and that perseverance. And it was the single best lesson that I've had in my life as far as business, because I didn't take a paycheck for over a year and a half, cut all my expenses down, made the bank payment, negotiated with them uh, over and over again, trying to get the loan amounts down, having them, just got very creative on ways to do all that, and came through it. Came through the other side. Took, about I think it took about 8 years to pay off all of that debt, to be finally completely free of that debt, and release my dad's farm from danger. And it was, now United Wood, hindsight, United Wood is still in business. It's been in business for almost 20 years and is thriving. It has no debt, millions of dollars in assets, does millions of dollars a year in business. And it would have been a lot easier to just fold shop and start over. And I'm so glad I didn't, for several reasons. And so that's been a good lesson for me. I've bought, about a dozen companies now, and none of them, and I'm very proud of this, none of them have failed. Um, and the underlying principle there is that we just don't give up. We just keep going and keep pushing and get creative and pivot and, adapt. And I think if you do that, there was I quoted this the other day, Ricky, but it's on Netflix, and it's a show about a Sherpa who goes and climbs like 5 mountains. Maybe you can Google it, Ricky. But he goes and climbs these 5 mountains in like 5 months or something, like Everest, and I don't know the names of all of them, but the five highest peaks or six highest peaks in the world, he goes and climbs them. And he's trying to get recognition for like the Sherpa people. They don't get much recognition for their accomplishments. It's usually the people who pay the Sherpa, to help them up the mountain. And so he says, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to get some sponsors and whatever. Anyway, on the second mountain, he shows up there, and there's bad weather and people are all grounded, and he has a time limit. It's like, I can only go, for the next couple weeks. I have to get up this thing. I can't hang out and wait for the weather to change for a month. And the people are like, you cannot get up there. You cannot do it. And he says, there's one thing I've learned in life, is that when you think that you are actually effed, and he uses the F word, you are totally, you're like on not just in a bad situation, but life or death. When you think you are going to die, he says, you have so much more to give in that moment than you ever thought possible. And he ended up climbing it. He went up there, everybody else stayed in camp. He went up and climbed it with the team, and everybody was absolutely, astonished that he was able to do that. And so, I think people don't realize what they're capable of until they're in these situations. And I encourage you, not encourage, but if you get in these situations, dig deep, and you might surprise yourself. And the lessons coming out the other side are invaluable to me now. It's been such a great lesson to where when things get hard, because they got so hard at that time, it was not even funny, not life or death, but it was trying to feed my family and keep a roof over our head for years. And when you do that, you find out what you're made of and what you can do and what you can cut and what you can live and not live with and all these different things. So, that would be that. Grit. All right. So that's number one. Try to shorten these up a little bit. How did the idea for M42 Adventures come about, and what sets it apart from other outdoor companies? So the way M42 Adventures came about was my passion for travel is probably number one. I've been traveling the last 8 years with my wife and kids to 68 countries, and I love it. It is just consumed me, and it's the people, the food, the scenery, the history, just all of it. And so I'm talking to people, telling them my story, and when we run into people and tell them, what we've been doing. And I think it's natural for people when I talk to most people about what their dreams are, it's a lot of it involves the bucket list involves travel and seeing the world. And I thought, man, let's help people do this. And so, M42 Adventures is not just, hey, let's go travel and let's go surf and let's go ride motorcycles. It is, we are going to give you the fundamental uh, keys to do that, which I believe are your finances. You have to have money. You got to have money to do these things. That's just the way the world works. Fitness, you got to be in shape. You got to be healthy. Your relationships and making sure that are those are healthy and good. If you there's nothing wrong with traveling alone or something like that, but if you it's I think it's more fulfilling if you have good friendships or good family relationships, things like that. I think that's a key thing to success. And then your spiritual faith, mental health, those are all kind of combined into one. um, but those are also very important. And so, first of all, we work on the person, the person, every individual. What are they struggling with? Are they out of shape? Are they broke? Is their marriage in a problem? All these different things. So the first adventures are, well, let's get you through the adventures of the four pillars is what we call them. And then beyond that, it is okay. Once we get you into a stable, good position, then, and not even that you're going to reach the destination, but just, if somebody's got $10,000 of credit card debt, I don't want them to come on an experience and get more credit card debt. I don't. That's not the purpose of this. I'm not doing this for the money. I don't need the money. This is a genuine, mission to help people. And so I would rather help them get out of debt and maybe have a more stable marriage or be able to spend more time with their kids or put food on the table than, go on that adventure. I want them to do both, but we got to get the foundation solid. And so those are the foundations. And then, that sets it apart. Outdoor companies, it's like, hey, come mountain biking, come hiking, whatever it is. A lot of them are like that. This is actually working on the person, on the soul, on the body. And then we take that and we try to get them to join a community, our community, make friends. I think that's important. Friendships for me personally. And I think Ricky can, he's here in the studio. He's my IT guy. He can vouch for this. In 10 months, I've made 2 or 3 dozen new friendships on people that I've interviewed, strangers that I interview, people that have come on experiences. They came to Africa. They came to Hawaii last year, Alaska, Utah. It's just enriched my life, right? I mean, it's just made my life better. And those are people directly correlated. And then again, like Ricky, he's going to come on a podcast here in a couple weeks and tell his story a little bit. He's been taking the information that he's hearing on these podcasts and inside the Genesis, and he's signing up for, what's it called? Kempo Karate. And he's going to run a marathon. And so now he told me, he's like, I've got all these new relationships from people inside his, is it a dojo? That he never would have made friends with if he wouldn't have heard my podcast with Kip Sorensen was the one that changed him on that episode. And then he went and signed up. He took action. And now he's got, these friendships and these brothers and sisters that M42 helped facilitate by changing his mindset. And that's the same for me as well. I'm going on a hunt here on Friday with 8 different men in Minnesota. Half of them are new that I've never met, and I'm excited, and so that's where M42 is. Let's get the foundation. Let's get the, the 4 pillars in order. I think that's paramount. And then let's move on to getting you inside the Genesis and getting the community and getting you comfortable and getting you into some of these things that make you nervous or outside your comfort zone and let you get educated and understand what mountain biking is, how to get it started, hunting, all these different things. A lot of people just don't know how to get started, including me. I don't know how to get into surfing. I don't know how to get into rock climbing. I have a concept, but we have mentors and we have people in here teaching master classes that are going to give us all the tools we need. And then we create live experiences all over the world that you can come on and hug the person that you've been talking to online and shake their hand and break bread with them and sit around a campfire and ride a surfboard with them or hunt an animal with them or, go play a golf course with them. And so that is what the Genesis is. And that's why I believe we are different. And that is our mission. So, uh, good question. Okay. Let's see. How do you maintain a balance between business growth and staying true to the passion that got you started? How do I maintain a balance? That's different. I actually I ran into somebody today at Home Depot this morning. I was in there and he says, "Hey," he's actually doing a startup right now, which is a painting business, which I'm helping him with, getting started, just consulting him there on helping him, the processes and stuff of being a new business. And I asked, "How's yours going, man?" He says, "It's good, just it's a struggle, but I'm going and doing what I can do." And he's actually covered in paint. And I says, "Oh, you started, you're going, and I have all my M42 gear on." And he says, "How's yours going?" And I says, "It's going good, man. It's stressful. We're busy. This is out of my realm. I don't know podcasting. I don't know social media. I don't know influencing. I'm from a construction background, so this is new to me. But um, I am passionate about it," is what I told him. I said, "So it doesn't necessarily feel like a job. It's fun. It's exciting. I get to talk to cool people. I get to do cool things." This coming year, 2025, next in 2 weeks, we got a firearm class. We actually sold out 2 of them. So 2 firearm classes, almost 40 people coming to Southern Utah to learn about pistol safety and all the different things. I'm signed up with my son, Castle, and so I get to do that. I've got Costa Rica next year with M42 Adventures. I've got 3 events here in Utah, Alaska, Africa, Hawaii. Um, that's amazing to have that as a job and something that I get to do every day for work. It's very easy to balance, and maintain and balance that growth with my passion because it's one and the same. The growth is fueling my passion, and my passion fuels the growth. So that's pretty simple for me there. I love this. I love what we're doing. And again, I tell people all the time, this is selfish. This is filling my cup. And that's the truth. And that's one way I know that if it's filling mine and the people around me, Ryan Mickler, he's a partner on this. He was telling me the other day, he's going back to Africa and he's coming to Alaska. He's coming to Hawaii next year. And he says, "Man, this is awesome. We get to go do amazing things for our job." And I says, that's the goal. That's the point, is to make our lives better, more fulfilled, and all those around us and those who choose to join us. And so it's an amazing thing, and we're very excited about it, and I'm very blessed. All right, let's see. Okay, this one goes to my travel. What destinations are on your adventure bucket list and why? It's funny because I've done most of them. We have like 8 years of full-time traveling, 68 countries. Most of my destinations have been checked off, and they are for different reasons. I always wanted to go to Australia, and I wanted to swim the Great Barrier Reef. I wanted to go to the Australia Zoo. I always loved Steve Irwin, which is kind of funny there, but I just always loved him and his passion and what kind of a father he was. So I've been to his zoo now twice, and it's amazing. I wanted to go to Normandy, because I love veterans and what they have done for us and our freedoms. So there's different places that I still want to get to Egypt. That's a big one for me. And the why is just the history and the pyramids and all the different. It's just amazing. It's just mind-boggling. So Egypt is on mine. I really want to go to Japan. We haven't gotten to Japan, and Iceland. Haven't done Iceland. So we plan on leaving again when we can next year in between experiences. For M42, we plan on checking off a few more of these, and we continue to travel with our kids. We're having a new baby in January, and she'll come with us. So family of 5, and we're just, everybody, that's one thing that's kind of funny is I side note here, but people always told me it's hard to travel with kids. And then I traveled with, kids, and then it's like, oh, well, it's hard to travel with young kids. My kids are 2 and 5, but they're like, it's hard to travel with an infant. My little girl is going to be 2 months old when we leave for Japan, and we'll just prove them wrong again. People put their limitations on you. So people out there that are listening, I've never met a mentor that tries to keep you down. And if they do, they're not a mentor, but I've never met somebody like that. If I find somebody that's physically fit and I ask them to help me and help me, fix my diet or my workout routine, they're always wanting to. But if I talk to somebody that's out of shape and, overweight and I say, man, I want to lose weight, they're like, dude, it's too hard. It's difficult, man. It's, you got to like watch your calories. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's what it is. And so, make sure who you take your mentorships from and your coaching from, they're actually doing it. They're actually living, again, like I said, in our Genesis community, we have 4 mentors right now. We're going to have probably up to 20. And I'm being very, very, very selective of who our mentors are and making sure their resume is, filled and accurate. You should, I've traveled, like I said, for 8 years full time, 68 countries. I feel like I can mentor people on travel, and I am. I was retired at 36 years old and don't need to work, and I've done well in business, real estate, investments, things like that, loans, different things like that. And I feel like I can teach that. There's obviously things that I don't know, and I'm going to bring in guest mentors who who specialize in stocks and bonds, or traveling, through Japan. If I get that question or somebody wants to know that and I've never been. So make sure that you vet your mentors. Okay, let's see. So the next one, what's a piece of advice you've received that really stuck with you, especially when it comes to leadership? Okay, let's see. What's a piece of advice you received that really stuck? That's a tough one. That's a tough one right out of the. I've got a lot of really good. So when I first read that, I'm like, oh, I've got a lot of really good advice. But when it comes to leadership, that throws that makes you narrow it down. And trying to think, leadership. Like I said, I guess probably what I would think of, and it's not necessarily advice. Well, I guess it is. I guess it is. But I don't take any advice from a leader, and I wouldn't, choose to be a leader if I don't have the knowledge or they don't have the knowledge. So probably the best piece of advice is what I was just saying, where, um, if you want to get leadership advice or be a leader, if you want to get leadership advice, make sure the person that is leading you is qualified. There's so much out there right now with people that are starting communities, starting, coaching, starting podcast, and not trying to knock them at all. If I don't know them, but some of them, and I do know some of them I know, personally that are, I have one that I'm thinking of that is consulting people on finances, and they're broke. And I know that. I know that. And I actually called them out on it. I says, "Hey, why are you and your wife consulting people on money when you're broke?" And they said, "Oh, well, fake it till you make it, right?" And I'm like, "No, that's not what that means. Um, I can see where maybe you drive like a nicer vehicle than you can kind of afford if you're a real estate agent, just trying to show that you know, uh, are somewhat successful. I don't know. I don't know. To me, I just don't agree with that. Fake it till you make it. If you're a coach and you're trying to give people financial advice and you are broke and you are doing that, that is wrong. That is unethical. So if somebody is coaching you, then try to make sure, and they don't have to have it all figured out. I'm not saying they have to be rich or something like that, but they need to be stable, successful. I think a lot of our best coaches, and I was talking about this the other day with some people, I think a lot of the best coaches, if somebody's divorced and teaching me on marriage, I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing if they've gotten through it and, they've handled it well. There's a lot to unpack in there. I almost would want to go to the guy who's been divorced to talk to me about marriage, which is a weird thing because you'd think you want the guy with the perfect marriage. And I do. That's in theory great. But the guy that went through divorce can say, here's what happened. Here's how I took my eye off the ball, and give me some advice that the person who's always had a perfect marriage. And so like with me, with financial coaching, I'm, quote unquote successful, right? I'm comfortable. I whatever you want to say. But am, I am, really, uh, living the life that I tell people. It's not smoke and mirrors. Um, and so, but I've also been broke. I had a little bit of money, not a ton, but I was doing well, quote unquote decent. And then lost everything in the recession, and then I got it back. And so that's the kind of mentor I would want personally, because they can say, "Hey, I made some money. This is what I did wrong. This is what it felt like. This is what I went through. This is the depression and the self-doubt and wanting to give up and all these things that I went through that are real. But then here's how I overcame them. And this is how I fought through it. And this is why it's better on the other side. And these are the lessons I learned." I think um, that is a better mentor. That's the one I would want. That's the one I would want. Again, like with me with travel. Uh, I have traveled with me and my wife. I've traveled with young kids. I've traveled with older kids. I've traveled short term. I've traveled long term. I've traveled on a budget. I've traveled on a lesser budget. I've cruised. I've done road trips. I want that mentor that's like, I've traveled and I've not had a lot of money, so we had to stay in these kind of accommodations. And then I made some money and we were able to stay in these kind of accommodations. And here's the pros and cons of each. And here's the benefit of coach, and here's the benefit of first class, and all these different things that I really look for in leadership. So probably the best advice that I could give when it comes to leadership is, when you choose to follow somebody, make sure they're qualified. All right. Let's see. Okay, this one's about the Genesis. Building a community is no small task. How did you go about fostering a culture of connection and adventure? That's a good point. Building a community is no small task. I to be honest, it's it's hard thing. Whenever you start a business, if you've ever started a business, most of the time, for me, this is again for me, but I see this with others that I'm coaching. You think that it's going to be one way, not the other. So you think, hey, I'm going to go buy this semi, and I'm going to go knock on doors and tell them, hey, I have a semi, I can haul your goods now. And people are going to line up. Or, hey, I'm going to start building cabinets, and I'm going to build the shop out and get all the equipment. And then I'm going to go talk to these builders, and I'm just going to start selling cabinets. And that's not how it goes from what I've seen. There's competition out there. It's never, ever as easy or as fast as you think. Money and mentors and different partners and things can speed up those steps, which I try to encourage everybody. Hire your weaknesses and things like that. But like for cabinets, we built it out, started knocking doors, and people were loyal to their existing cabinet builders. And I respect that. It's one of those catch-22s where you want them to switch over to you, but you also appreciate that they have loyalty, so that someday when somebody knocks on their door and you're doing their cabinets, they don't just bail. And, so that's the same with M42 Adventures. This is my passion. This is something that I believe in, that is in my bones. And to convey that and and having it be a new concept is difficult. And so, when it doesn't go the way you plan, which again, things don't, you think you're going to announce a community and you're going to have hundreds of people sign up. We've had in 2 months, we've got about 60. And that's where I go to my mentor, which is Ryan Mickler, who has a community. And I'm like, hey, man, we got 60 people in here. I don't know if that's good or bad. I wish it was more. And he says, that's great. That's amazing. 60 people chose to follow you and to listen to what you're saying. What did you expect? And I'm like, I don't know. So building a community is no small task. To get the information in there, to get the content, to get the value to where, right now it's free, but we're eventually going to charge because there is cost associated with this. I want there to be hundreds and thousands of dollars of value. Like the travel. I was telling somebody the other day, I have a member in there who wants to go on a trip, and I help them book their trip, and I save them hundreds of dollars on a small trip to Hawaii. And for them to have this membership, and that's one aspect of the community, they get that value off of one thing, and there's dozens and dozens of things. So you have to build that value. You have to create the content, all those different things. So number one, yeah, building a community is no small task. It's been much harder than I imagined. But we have that grit, we have that perseverance. And I think that's what is, going to set us apart long term. Ryan actually said this the other day on one of his Facebook Lives. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a quick minute and step away from this conversation. I wanted to talk about a few things we have coming up. First of all, we have a last minute experience that we're going to throw in before the end of the year, and it is our a firearm pistol class here in Southern Utah. So we actually announced, it's November 16th. We announced a class from noon to 4 for men and women and even children over the age of 12. And it had 20 spots, and we sold it out in less than 24 hours. So we've added another time, 8 to noon the same day, November 16th. And I believe we have 4 or 5 spots left. So if you're in the Southern Utah area and you want to come out, and we supply everything, guns, bullets, safety equipment, and we're going to give you some swag, and it should be a fun, great day, a great way to make some friendships and learn a new skill that could save you or your friends or family's lives. So we're excited for that. Also, the Genesis is open. It's our online community, and it has been open for 2 months now. We have almost 60 members in there. We've got mentors. We got a lot going on. We're continuing to work on that. We actually just hired a new gentleman who is going to be helping work on that as well and add content and a bunch of different things. So lots of things going on there. It's free until the end of the year. So if you want to come in and just test drive it and see what it's about, we would welcome you in there. And it is going to have a lot of perks, discounts for different products, sponsors, first rights to these experiences. Like I said, that one experience, the firearm experience, sold out in less than 24 hours just by us, basically reaching out to our community. If you want first right of refusal on our live adventures and experiences, that would be a really good way to do that. And then finally, we have Africa. It's not our first experience for 2025. We offered Costa Rica, but it's sold out. It's in March of next year, 2025, and it sold out immediately. But we do have Africa that we're launching next, and it is in August of next year, August 7th to the 14th, and it is selling fast. So if you're interested in going to Africa, I went this year. It was absolutely amazing. I took my wife and kids, and I highly recommend it. So there's some hunter and non-hunter spots there if you want to just go and do photography or whatnot. Humanitarian projects. We got some helicopter rides set up. So Africa 2025 is for sale, and that's what we got going on. So let's get back to this episode. Somebody called in and asked, I've started this, I think it was a community again or a podcast or something. And he says, I've been doing it for 6 months and people aren't following me. How do I get people to follow me? And Ryan says, well, there's a lot to that, but what is your message? What are you teaching is a big part of that. But he says, you've only been doing it 6 months, 6 months. That is nothing in the scheme of things. He says, I don't follow anybody who's been doing something for 6 months because I don't know if they're committed. I don't know if they believe in what they're doing. I don't know what the statistic is. Maybe Ricky can look that up real quick, but how many podcasts fell in what amount of time? Because I know of half a dozen personally that within 6 to 12 months stop. They're just not getting the downloads. It's not going the way they had planned. Life gets in the way. To do this podcast every single week with guests and questions and all that is not easy. We've been doing this all year, 52 episodes, by the end of the year, and 50% end before their first 7 to 10 episodes. So 20%, 2 out of 10 make it past 5 years. So, that's, you don't want to jump on. There's actually been a few podcasts that I was excited about. I jumped on, listened to them for a few months and got to where I enjoyed them. And then they went away and I text the guy and I'm like, where's your podcast? And he's like, dude, I'm done with that. It just wasn't working out. I'm too busy. And I'm like, well, man, dude, you hooked me and then you dropped me, So that was a very, surprising thing. So Ryan said, listen, the way you have to approach these things, especially with like a podcast, is would you pull the cart, Ryan? That's what Ryan made an example. I'm not going to help you push your cart until I know that you want to pull it long term. And would you pull your cart with nobody behind you? If you would, then you're going to be successful. If you're doing this for people to help you push the cart, and that's the only reason, then you're probably going to quit. And I asked myself, I was sitting on the couch and I'm like, okay, M42 Adventures. Am I doing this because, and it's actually kind of a catch-22 again, because I am doing this, I believe, and this is where I had to ask myself, I am doing this to help other people. Like, grateful me, my life's good. I've kind of achieved my goals, and I've got freedom and, I'm happy. I'm good. So I'm like, this is for other people. So if nobody's pushing the cart, why am I? And then I'm like, wait a minute though. I do get joy out of interviewing these people. We've had some amazing guests on. You can go back and look at those. Some amazing people, and I've gotten trips out of it, and I've gotten experiences out of it, and I've made new friendships, and I'm like, nope, I'm good. I'll keep doing this for that, and I will. I tell everybody, like, M42 Adventures isn't going to go away because it's not about the money. It's not about, changing thousands of lives. I do want, I would be lying if I didn't say I want some people to help me push the cart, which I do have. We've got 60 people in the Genesis, and if it doesn't get to thousands of people, those 60 matter to me. And I helped a couple last year change their finances, and they were able to go on a trip at the end of the year and take their daughters on a trip. And they called me and my wife crying, saying we took Rick's advice, we got our finances in order, and we just took our first vacation in years and paid cash for it. And they started crying, and me and Gina started crying. And that was 2 months before I started M42 Adventures. And I says, that's it. That's right there is worth it. That one message is worth all the mornings and nights and stress and money that I'm investing and others are investing. That was worth it. So the second part of that is, how do you go about fostering a culture of connection and adventure? Again, the Genesis is number one for the culture of connection. Get people in there, get them talking, get them introducing themselves, get them on the live Zooms, and just get out there. I have friends that are like, man, I can't meet anybody. I don't have, look at Ricky, right? So he wanted to improve his physical defense skills, karate skills, and also wanted to make friends. So he went down to a dojo here in town, signed up, and he has that now. He is on the path of self-defense and becoming, more confident in that aspect to protect him and his family. And he has new friendships. So, to have that connection, you have to give and not just take. And so that's number one. And then the adventure, that's just offering people the opportunity to come on these live experiences that we are going to be hosting. And then they have to sign up. They got to make the sacrifice. They got to pay the money. They got to get on the flight. And that's up to them. But we do give them the support and the education and the actual experience to come sign up for. So that's a good question. All right, let's see. Do a couple more here. Ricky passed me one actually. You just got this in. Okay, cool. So we just got one while I'm on here, and he slid it over in front of me. I've listened to your podcast for a few months. You talk about using books as cheat codes. What 3 books do you recommend for someone who has been drifting for most of their life, and why do you recommend each? All right. So, again, thank you for listening. I do appreciate that. We are new, and so thank you for supporting us. I do believe books are cheat codes, 100%. Books and mentors. So, you can take a person and for example, hunting. I enjoy hunting, and I'll go to my uncles who are the best hunters I know of personally. And I've had them come to Hawaii with me. I invited them out to a Hawaii hunt, and I ask them questions, and I ask them, I watch and learn. And every time I go with them, I learn so much. And it's the same with books. If those guys wrote a book on how to hunt, I would buy it instantly. And so I encourage everybody out there to, I heard a quote the other day that said, readers are leaders. And I love that, And the other thing I heard of is you look at these big houses. I actually had a buddy, I can't remember who's telling me about it, but there's a house out here in St. George, Utah. And he says, dude, you got to see the library. He says it's this mansion, it's massive. And upstairs is this huge library. And, I heard somebody the other day say, you look at these big houses, it was on a Instagram, whatever, chat story. I don't know the term. And it was a guy interviewing somebody, a billionaire, and he says, all my billionaire friends have libraries full of books. And he says, if you walk down here to one of these tiny apartments, you probably couldn't find a book inside of it. And that's the problem. People, the people who are successful, all of them that I know read and listen to podcasts and get mentors. It's like, if you know that that's what works, why are you not doing it? Why? Why are you not doing it? I do not understand that. If you know that getting a mentor or a coach or somebody ahead of you, it doesn't even have to be like some mentor online or anything. It's like, if you want to run a better cabinet company, which I did this when we started our cabinet company. I didn't know how to start a cabinet company, didn't know what I was doing. I actually bought a cabinet company here in Utah, moved it to southern Utah. The gentleman that was supposed to run it, which was the owner at the time, and I bought him out and he was supposed to stay on, bailed and left. And I'm like, oh, great. Now I've got a cabinet company with millions of dollars of equipment and I don't even know how to do a cabinet company. So I grabbed one of my best guys that was working for another one of my companies. And I said, listen, I think you could run this division. And he says, I don't know anything about cabinets. And I says, well, let's call a successful cabinet company that is not in our market, so we're not competing with them, and see if they'll train us. And he says, dude, nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to train us to do cabinets, you know? And I says, let me try. So I ended up calling a large cabinet component supplier in Idaho and said, hey, do you know of anybody that might be interested in consulting for us and helping us, And he says, let me give you a few numbers. I don't know. I've never heard of that. I called them up. I says, hey, we'll pay you $1,000 a day if you'll take my guy and he can come up there and stay in a hotel room, and you show him your paint booth, you show him your start to finish process, your software. And we got one to do it. We got one to do it in Salt Lake City. And my guy went up there 2 or 3 times. It cost us, I don't know, $10,000. And he came back and says, I can start a cabinet company. And that's how we did it. With this podcast, I've got a gentleman coming in on Thursday, right, Ricky? We have a consultant coming in on Thursday because we're working on our filming quality of our podcast. You're watching this right now, maybe on YouTube. And we want to get better. We want to, make our lighting better. We want to make our video quality better. We want to make our branding better. And we don't know what we don't know. We don't. We're doing the best we can. We got a reference from Ryan Mickler on a guy who's supposed to be very good. And he's coming. I talked to him for like 30 minutes. It was an amazing phone call. I'm very excited about it. And he's coming over here on Thursday for a few hours. We will pay him. He will consult for us. And it's another relationship. I can tell that he's a good person. And it's probably going to be another friendship in my life and another business associate. And he's going to teach me more, me and Ricky and on our team here, more skills that are going to make us better. And so that's what books and that's what mentors can do. All right. So 3 books. What do you recommend for someone? Again, this is who's drifting for most of their life. I would say that's a tough one. That's the reason that's tough is I need to get a little more specific. Are they drifting because of their finances? Are they drifting because they're depressed? Are they drifting because their relationships are bad? Are they drifting because they're unhealthy? Are they drifting because, they're, but just the way this is written, I think I could give a few. I would recommend for somebody who's drifting, I'm going to take that as they have no, they're lost. They're maybe sad, maybe not sad, but they just don't have a passion or a purpose that they are, passionate about. I'm not very good with book titles. I'd probably even have to Google them. The 4-Hour Workweek was a good one for me. That's the one that changed my life. That's by Tim Ferriss. Will you look up As a Man Thinketh, Ricky? Who's I can't remember his name. It's a weird name. But 4-Hour Workweek gave me the playbook on how to not work so much, on how to get my freedom back. I think somebody who's drifting just doesn't have their goals in place. They don't know what they want. And that's the first thing. Before you pick up a book, and I guess you could pick up a book, maybe. James Allen, As a Man Thinketh, is a great book. To get your mind right. Like, so with my coaching and my different things I have going on, I tell people to first, and I use this like a doctor. I don't go into a doctor's office and just say, and he says, hey, what's up, Rick? Let's put you on an antibiotic and an antidepressant and have a good day. No, he says, Rick, how's it going? What are you in here for? What brought you in today? Is it pain? Is it physical, mental, what's going on? And they listen and they they do x-rays and they do blood tests and they do urine tests, and they um they don't prescribe until they have listened. And I think that is key, so you can't, if you're drifting through life, what are you missing? Is it because you haven't found love? Is it because you haven't found that job that's going to that brings you joy? You haven't found that hobby that's going to bring you joy. There's a lot of rich people who are sad. There's a lot of poor people who are happy. Um, so you really have to bring this down to what it is for you as an individual. And that's what I do with my coaching. Obviously, there's financial coaching. There's a lot of generalities like budget, and invest. And again, it's not a one size fits all. So I actually go deeper with the individual, and I say, what's your debt load? What's your goals? What's your 1 year goal? What's your 5 year goals? What do you enjoy? Do you want, some people like investing in stocks because they like to see the numbers and things move every day, and that's exciting for them. Some people like real estate because they like to touch the walls and have something tangible. Some people like business because they like to invest in people and creation. So you got to get real specific. So why are you drifting? And then beyond that, it would be, if you kind of go with the 4 pillars, right? Finances, I would look into like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the 4-hour work week. What else for finances? Those are my 2 top, probably. If you're doing fitness, I really don't know any fitness books. I read Arnold Schwarzenegger's autobiography, which was amazing. Did you read that? It's really good. Can't remember the name of that if you want to look that up, but fitness, I don't really read books on that, to be honest. So, but if you're drifting with your, that, you can Google top 10, fitness books, and you'll get some, and then look at the reviews. And then, family relationships. Seth actually just mentioned one the other day that was called, what was the book Seth recommended? I just bought it. It was like Morning Sunrise or something like that. There are pros and there are cons to not knowing these questions. Let me look at this real quick. So my library, The Miracle Morning. So The Miracle Morning, he actually gave us that one in the health, the mental health and mindset masterclass that he did inside our Genesis. And he said it changed the course of his life. And I can see that, he talks about how important the morning is to start your day. And so that's a really good one. No, that's not it. I can probably find it here in my, let's see. Anyway, we'll throw those up on the notes, but yeah. Again, the books are difficult for me if I don't know exactly what you want. I have thousands of books that I can recommend, but I would find why you're drifting, what you're struggling with. If it's depression, there's, so many, Google search that's how I find stuff. I'm like, okay, I need help on podcasting. So I Google podcast books, and there's half a dozen on that. I want to invest in real estate. And then I get specific. I want to invest in apartment buildings. I want to invest in, flipping homes. So, but yeah, the point of this is books are cheat codes. You are absolutely right. And find why you've been drifting, what it is that you feel like is missing in your life, relationships. If it's a relationship, find a book on relationships. One of my favorite books is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Napoleon Hill. Excellent book, so I love all of his Outwitting the Devil. Lots of good messages in there. And so, yeah, that's what I would do. Cool. Great question. Thanks for sending that in while we're doing this. I'm going to do one more, and then, Dale Carnegie. Yeah. I thought it was Napoleon Hill too. Yeah. Dale Carnegie on that. Sorry about that. Okay. I'm actually going to do 2 more. I like this one. So for those looking to follow in my footsteps, what's the most important thing they should keep in mind? So in my footsteps, I'm going to say, are you following in my footsteps as a husband, a father, in the travel realm, in the financial realm? So I'll kind of go into all of that real quick here. So I tell everybody for marriage, I was actually engaged before I married my wife. And when I mean engaged, we were like, the wedding was bought, the wedding dress was bought, the invitations were mailed out. I think I was like 19 or 20 years old, and I was just too young. And I'm one of those guys who I always do like pros and con lists. And I know that maybe sounds wrong, but that's what I did, and I stand by it. Um, and so I was very, very thought out, and this comes a lot from my stepdad Kendall, where he says, make sure, probably the two most important things you'll choose in your life are your spouse and what you do for work. And so I was very thought out. So for those looking to follow in my footsteps, I do have a good marriage. Obviously, we have our problems. I'm not going to say we don't, but our foundation is strong, and I'm happy, and I love her, and I'm attracted to her, and we're having our fourth baby together here in a couple months. And I would say be very thought out on who you choose to marry. If you're already married, then I would encourage you to communicate. And I don't do that well. I actually had a podcast that I recorded. Has it come out yet? Who was that with? Jesse. Hasn't come out yet. Next week. It comes out next week. So that was an amazing one for me. So communication is a one that I need to work on. But so that being a father, just don't have kids unless you're ready to be a father, and play with them and help them grow and spend time with them and be able to afford them and love them. Financial, the important things you got to keep in mind are budget, be frugal, pay cash for things that have high interest rates. Low interest rates you can use as loans, houses, stuff like that with a low interest rate, but anything over 5 or 6%, it's gonna bleed you out. Don't buy outside your what you can afford. I see lots of people that, you know, I can afford a very nice house, and the house that we live in is very small, and it allows me to travel the world and not have debt. And that's my decision. So, financial, I would say live within your means or below your means, invest the difference, get passive income so you're not trading your time for money, and then you beat the game. And so that's one. And then travel would be just go do it. Get a mentor, find somebody who's done it, and don't be scared. I was nervous in the beginning, and now I can. My trip to Japan, I've never been. I haven't even planned it out yet, and I will plan it out in probably a week. We're gonna go for a month or two, and it'll take me a week to plan out, and I have no concerns, and it doesn't even worry me at all. Back in the day when I first left, I spent almost a year planning my first 3 months of my travel. And now I can go for 3 months, and I'll plan it for about a week or two. Our packing, everything we do, it's just so much more simple. And also technology has gotten easier over the last 8 years. There's a lot more websites and things that help you out. So the other thing that I would say for those looking to follow my footsteps is, get a mentor. I've always had mentors. I've always read books, listen to podcasts, join communities. I said the Genesis, I'm going to plug it. I'm passionate about it. I believe in it. So the Genesis for me. But if it's not the Genesis, find another community, that you want to be in, and find people, like-minded people who are trying to grow and have the resources and the, abilities to help you grow. And so that's how I would follow in my footsteps if I was to do it all over again. All right, so I'm going to answer this last question. I just kind of liked it. What's next for both M42 Adventures and the Genesis? Any exciting plans or upcoming adventures you have? What's next for M42 Adventures? We're hiring people now. We finally are able, to start adding people to the team. We hired a gentleman here yesterday, full time, and he's going to be an amazing asset. So that's going to help our growth. The Genesis, we're adding to it over the next couple months. And, we're going to continue to add mentors, content, people, members. And so that's going to be great. What's next? I'm always one of those guys where I always tell people, like, whenever I start these businesses, they change, and they should. They need United Wood Products from 20 years ago. It started as a wood mill in Rosarito, Mexico. And now it is a wood mill / cabinet shop / flooring store in Utah that ships all over the world. So I didn't even have that ability to plan that way. So what's next for M42 Adventures is an adventure. It's unknown. We're going to do amazing things. We got next year, our plans coming up. We're adding firearm classes, trying to do those monthly. We're going to add outdoor cooking classes, over fire cooking, here, hopefully in the next month or two, in person. We're going to be doing Costa Rica next year. That's sold out. We're going to be doing a UTV experience here in Utah that's sold out. We're going to be doing a horse experience where you get your own horse and we go up into the mountains for a few nights, all on horseback. That's sold out. And I don't tell you sold out. I'm just telling you that we're getting support. I'm excited. We're getting, we're having that support, and I sincerely appreciate it. And then also, so you're not looking for it and trying to find seats to that. But Africa, we got Africa next year. There's a couple places open for that. We're going to be doing a Utah experience, an Alaska experience, sold out, Hawaii experience, which is sold out. So we're trying to add more. That's why we need more staff. But yeah, we're adding 3 more new experiences for next year. And we're going to add 3 more. Costa Rica and the UTV and the horses are all brand new for next year. And then the firearms and the outdoor cooking are also new. So 5 new experiences, but we're looking at motorcycle experiences. We're looking at, the 4-pillar experiences where you come out and we work on your finances. That's, not even, we'll still have some fun. We'll ride side by sides and, shoot some bows and do some fishing, but also be working on mental health and mindset, some physical stuff, finances, your relationships, things like that. So, singles adventures where we bring out men and women, family adventures, all men adventures, all women adventures, daddy, daughter, father, son, mommy, daughter, we have all these ideas coming up and we're excited about it. We're just getting rolling here. We're brand new. Hopefully you'll support us. Hopefully you'll join us. We sincerely appreciate it. And again, that's the Ask Me Anything episode with me today. I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. If you have more questions, please send them in. You can go to our website, to our chat. You can email me at rick@m42adventures.com. You can send it through social media. And we appreciate you listening. We appreciate you, spreading our message. That's the number one way that we get this word out. And we hope to change lives. So thank you for listening. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you go do an adventure, no matter how big, how small. Get outside, get off the screens, and reconnect, with nature, reconnect with family, and, you get one life. So make it count. Thanks. Bye.